Welcome back. Now, the federal government has in recent times expressed its determination to resolve the issue of brain drain, particularly in the health sector, a development which has left a significant gap in the system and raised concerns about the quality of healthcare services in Nigeria. To this end, the government has approved for the evaluation and possible re-employment of retired doctors and nurses as contract staff once they have reached their mandatory retirement age or years of service. The retired healthcare professionals will undergo a rigorous assessment process to ensure they meet the necessary standards and qualifications required to provide top-notch healthcare services. Now, these contract appointments will be offered at the same salary scale level that the healthcare workers retired on, provided they desire and qualify for it. Discussions around this initiative have opened a dialogue now on the deeper issues at play, such as the need to address the root causes of brain drain, including working conditions and remuneration for healthcare professionals. Joining me now to discuss more on this is Professor Sam Ibeneme, who is the Dean Faculty of Health Sciences, David Umahi Federal University of Health Sciences, Ebonyi State. Thank you very much, Prof, for joining us on the program. Let me get your take on these initiatives. Not a surprise at all, considering the huge problem of brain drain we're dealing with in the country at the moment.
I don't think it's a surprise. Everybody saw it coming because all the indices, all the indicators that this will come up this way were there. The issue of brain drain is not new, and it's also not very common to Nigeria. It's a global issue. If you recall, in the 1940s, brain drain became an issue in Europe as well. And many health professionals migrated from Europe, and from the data made available by World Bank, these professionals migrated to 5 countries: United Kingdom, USA, Australia, Germany, and Canada. And the same trend has not really, abated, one way or the other. In this climb, we are worse affected because of the burden of disease that we have, and that's what makes it a little bit very challenging and difficult, because we actually account for roughly 11% of the world population, but account for 25% in terms of disease burden of the whole world. And our own health professionals are just 3%. And so it's difficult for them to manage. And then to lose what you have already becomes quite a challenge. As of 2021, we have 13,600 physicians, Nigerian physicians, licensed to practice in Britain alone. And between 2021 and 2022, 727 physicians were licensed again from Nigeria, in UK alone. So you can see that the ripple effect on our health system will be quite very serious. And no government who really thinks about the development of these people, we joke with this. But what has the government been doing over the years to address the issues that cause this brain drain? And that is what is important, and not really coming up with a quick fix policy.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this policy now. The policy, this whole arrangement of recruiting retired healthcare workers. What do you make of it? Do you think it's a very good quick fix policy, at least just as a stopgap while we discuss, we find a solution, a longer term solution, if you like, to the problem?
Well, I think it's a quick fix policy, and it's just a stopgap policy. And I don't think, looking at it from that perspective, that there's anything wrong with it. There's something they can do in this instance. But the issue is that on the longer term, can we continue this way? No, because the people you are bringing back from retirement to, come and work as contract physicians and health workers, they are tired, they are exhausted, they've given their best to the system. And then, the challenge is that they're going to be overwhelmed, because the more you train younger professionals who are more inclined to live in the system, the more you are left with the older ones who are due to, enjoy their retirement. And they cannot cope with the pressure over time. But in the interim, I think that it's a quick fix policy that may likely work. But if we are serious about addressing this issue, then we should be looking at the main reasons why our health workers immigrate. They do this for one reason. Of course, not just one, about 5 of them. One is the need for a greener pasture, better salary, better condition and quality of life for themselves and for their family. And availability of technology, which they need to practice. It is very frustrating for you to see your patient die when you know you have the competencies, you have the skills, you have everything it takes to keep your patient alive, improve the health of your people, but you don't have the technology available to you. You don't have the equipment. You don't have all you need to function. It frustrates a medical practitioner. And it's a challenge for people to die under your care. When you know that you have not done everything you should do if you had available technology to sustain them, there's a feeling of guilt that comes with it, but a burden also in the heart of people. And at some point, people will opt to go to where they will have these facilities available. They can bring their services and render the services to human populace who will benefit from them than to watch your people die unnecessarily when you know you can do something about it. But so it goes back to government policies. The policy of trying to fix the nation as a whole. And you know why this is a very big problem? It's a security problem on the long run anyway, because the health of a people is the biggest resource a nation has. You cannot talk about productivity without discussing health, because health is the baseline for productivity. And when you have a healthy population, they will give the best they have, into the productive sector to drive the economy and drive the financial indices and bring up and stabilize the nation in terms of finances and all you can talk about. Even in all the job sectors, both informal and formal, they depend on the supply of healthy workforce. And when you don't have a healthy workforce, you don't even have healthy children who will replenish the ones who are older. And so you create a crisis that will, drive the system down. Even when you increase the salary of an average health worker, inflation comes in the next second, and it's a mess. Everything goes. So it becomes an issue that the government on the long term need to sit down and look at why the economy is being mismanaged. The ripple effect of a mismanaged economy is that those who have the competencies and skills to sustain and stabilize the healthcare delivery system of a country and guarantee productivity of the workforce, of a healthy workforce, they leave. And other countries now begin to enjoy these services to the detriment of our country.
But let me ask you this, Prof.
With a disease burden of 25%,
yes,
it is quite huge.
Yes, Prof. But let me ask you. I mean, you've just pointed out that Africa, for instance, accounts for 25% of the disease burden of the world, which, of course, as you have said, is probably the largest. But doesn't it also raise a moral question that the West, the rich West now, continues to pull our healthcare workers away from us? Because, and that at the end of the day, it also poses a danger to them as well, because if the disease burden continues to grow, even beyond the 25% that you have talked about, it's also a danger to them, and that it raises a serious moral question that they're taking, our best hands away, just like that. Perhaps, maybe they should begin to consider providing some kind of support here at home. I mean, providing support now to some of these poorer countries, rather than just come and take the best of their healthcare workers to go work in their own countries. I'm just wondering.
Well, I think you are looking at it from a moral perspective, and you are looking at it from a moral perspective that does not really fly when you look at the fact that health services should be considered as a demand and supply service. You have consumers who need the services, and you have those who actually offer the services. And so if the demand is high in one place, you go to that place. And if the demand is low on one side, you adjust. These things are open to market forces. And so it's not really something you moralize so much. And quite frankly, How do you look a child, a young personnel who has seen the older ones struggle in life by practicing and making sacrifices to the nation without anything to show for it at the end of retirement? How do you look them in the eye and say, no, you don't have to leave, and go to where you can find a stable polity, a more secure environment, and where you have the available technology to sustain your competencies and skills, and where your career development path is clear, properly defined, and everything is well organized. Health is one of the most technology-driven industries and one of the economic intense industries, that every nation guards jealously. And if Nigeria sees it as a security issue, that it could affect them negatively in terms of productivity and economic sustenance, they will take advantage of all the instruments of government in making policies that will, keep this workforce behind, just like other countries have prioritized it and done it. So I think it's something that lies squarely in the realms of the administrators. Perhaps they didn't foresee that bad policies, not implemented in the past, we have ripple effects on the long term, which is what we are reaping right now. And so the West, who have opened their borders and come up with policies that encourage and sustain, such workforce coming from other parts of the world, you wouldn't really blame them. And for them, yes, in terms of, being a security risk as well, it's a possibility. Of course, we know that certain people who are, trained health workforce from other parts of the world can actually, be in the secret service of other nations and slip into different countries for different reasons. There's still a controversy about what happened with COVID-19, whether it was an intentional thing, whether it was a sabotage or what have you. On the long run, we find out. But such threats are bound to happen. But when you look at the cost and the risk, the benefit and the risk, if you do your benefit risk analysis, you will see that it is still in the best interest of any nation to have all the health workers it need to sustain productivity of its populace. And that is what the West have done. If you look at what the West have done, for instance, both North America and South America, majority of, roughly about 50% of expenditure in health is accounted by these two continents, the North and South America. The global, expenditure on health, about 50% of
I get your point.
Is from there. And 37% of their workforce in the health sector are foreign physicians. So you can see how welcoming and how their policies have attracted people who have the competencies and skills, to come to their own environment and to their economy to thrive. And so what we should do, rather than always trying to moralize this issue, is for our government to sit up, because I remember that when the economy of this country was good, the reverse was the case. Nigeria benefited from health workers who came from Pakistan, from US, to practice in Nigeria. That's still a fact. In the 80s, when the economy of the country was properly managed. So it's all boils down to how you manage the economy and how you make your policies to train more of this workforce and ensure that you sustain and stabilize the healthcare delivery system.
I understand you very well, Prof. Understand you. Professor Sam Ibeneme, thank you very much for joining us on the program, and thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
You're welcome.
All right, that's how much we can take on the program this week. But thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.